Okay, so then a lot of times we fall back and go, oh, I get that, Pastor, but you know what? I've got gifts. The Lord's anointed me. I can sing. I can pray for people. There's certain things. I've got gifts of the Spirit, and so that's how I'm going to judge myself. Not my attendance or any of that stuff, but the fact that, like, when I'm like, oh, man, have I been getting a little too far off? And then a service shows up, and I go to pray for someone, I can still get a word of knowledge for them and be able to pray over them. That's how I'm going to judge myself in my relationship with God. Church, the word says that the gifts are without repentance. What that basically means is you're not going to lose them. You know how many fallen ministers were eventually publicly fell because for months or years they had personally fallen, but because they could still operate in the gifts, they thought they were okay, and they judged their relationship with God based off their gifts. That's no different than being estranged from your father but still having access to his bank account. Oh, the checks keep clearing. That doesn't mean you're close to your dad. That doesn't mean you have a personal relationship. That just means you have his account number. And so in the same way that we would judge, hey, how are you and your wife doing? Hey, how are you and your son doing? The same standard that we would say, hey, we're great. We have a great connection. You know, we talk every morning before, school or before work. We'd start to give these proofs that we're close to a physical person. It's going to be the same way in our relationship. It's not the things we did. Like, you would never say, hey, how are your wife doing? Oh, good, great. Oh, really? Yeah. Tell me about it. I know you guys were kind of having some problems a while ago. Oh, it's great. I buy her flowers every other day. I DoorDash her food all the time. And you start listing all these things. Like, oh, really? Yeah. When's the last guy? So, like, do you guys like DoorDash? Like, do you have date nights? Or, oh, I haven't seen her much in 8 weeks. I've been working a lot of overtime. Like, I mean, I see her here and there. Like, I come in and maybe I fall asleep and I say hi, and then she gets up and she goes to work. I haven't really seen her in 8 weeks, but man, look at all these things I've been doing for her. We would never do that. We would never. I mean, if we did, if your friends said that, you would think they were delusional. Like, dude, you guys do not you're going through a rough patch. You're not doing well right now. In the same way, we can't go, well, I'm on like week 6 of this, the everyday devotion I'm doing. I mean, I don't really feel like I'm encountering God in it. Like, I'm just kind of reading through it really quick and doing my little 5-minute devotion. I don't really ever stop and hear from God, and I'm not really spinning, right? We wouldn't do the same thing. We wouldn't say I'm doing these religious things, but yet I'm close to God. So we have to be very careful to not become like the Israelites, where we begin to stray off from what it is that makes a relationship with God and begin to just say we're checking the boxes, and therefore that means we have a close relationship. If we are, I started this off by saying, like, hey, as we're doing these things, it's going to paint a target on our back. So I remember then going like, well, what if we just don't then? So what if we just kind of like just be a good person and don't do and maybe the enemy won't attack us? And I remember my mom was my Sunday school teacher at the time. So maybe she was a little sharper with what she said than she would have been if it was someone else. But she goes, well, you could do that, but the reason the enemy is not attacking you is because he's already got you. Like, what's the point? Like, you don't pass someone. You don't ever come across someone that you're walking the same direction as. Do you want to be walking in the same direction as the enemy? Because if not, if you're following God, you're going to come across them from time to time. And I remember being like, oh, okay. So I guess the only real answer is to be prayed up and studied up and close to God, so when those do happen, I'm prepared for them. And she's like, yes, that is.